back over the years you've been doing this, is this the you mentioned that this is unprecedented, a 5-month buildup like this, vis-a-vis the amount of release language and the intensity of it and the trailing on of it for so long. Nothing else on the radar really comes close. This is kind of the big.
Yeah, for instance, let's go to the big one that'll stand out in everybody's minds, which is the September 11th attack. Mm-hmm. We actually had release language of greater intensity, but only lasted for about 11 to 12 days, and then stair-step again, as we all tried to absorb it, but it didn't continue for 5 months. So, no, we've never run across anything.
That's a remarkable overlay. So the September 11th release language lasted 10 or 11 days, approximately?
It a little over 11 days. I mean, almost 12 complete days.
When people had dealt with it, and that was...
No, they hadn't dealt with it, but they were no longer expressive. They were now starting to internalize and get back into some tension mode and try and absorb it all. But the huge gasp of the horror of it all was pretty much out by then.
And yet you find this 5-month period to be a gasp and a horror of it all kind of a thing?
Or some level of release language, that is to say, we're all responding to new events occurring.
We'll be right back. To next month, I guess. It's curiosity and all the rest of it.
Well, we've got to do something. Might as well keep busy and enjoy ourselves as we go along here.
Yeah. What about food for this winter? We talked about energy. Anything more on the food crisis?
We have a lot
out of the headlines now, but that doesn't mean anything.
It'll be back, and not only will it be in terms of rationing and shortages, but part of that's going to be driven by we're getting the shortage aspect, and then under in supporting sets, we've got a collapse of the food chain within the oceans, and then we're having breakage of the food chain relative to grains. So probably it's going to relate to the bee issue and the lack of pollinators.
But not the floods of Iowa. That was
isolated. Minor relatively compared to what we're seeing in the future. Mm-hmm, in fact, we think that the revolution stuff we've been seeing for 2009 and the summer of hell in 2009, a lot of that may be driven by a major food crisis, which occurs over the winter and early spring.
All right.
So we are talking shortages. We're talking impacts at weird kind of levels, such as, for instance, ingredients for supplements not being available due to issues in some other country relative to that particular part of the biosphere.
Not the Codex Alimentarius thing, where they're trying to outlaw those supplements.
We're seeing all of those, and those control mechanisms are going to be desperately pushed. But in the end, most of those are gone by the end of 2010 as we get into that particular set of chaos. Yeah, the powers that be are losing their grip rapidly or are surrendering it. I mean, there are those who are going to say that they're just going to sort of withdraw to their holes in the ground and await out whatever 2012 brings.
All right, now that's another thing that we're going to spend time on. And by the way, Clif will be with us as a regular once a month, the first Monday of each month, the last hour of the program. But this 2012 thing is very concerning.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and it's being marketed, it's being merchandised, and we know, all of you know, that the powers that be are going to not miss this golden opportunity to do something on a huge scale. I mean, this has fallen right into their laps. Of course, they knew about it long ago, but they are going to use this like you've never seen anything used before. The drumbeat of 2012 is going to become louder and louder and louder.
Well, we're seeing the effects of it already, and look at your previous guest here. I caught a few minutes there, and the number of times that he was expressing how he feels about this pending and potential revealing, if you will. Mm-hmm. He's getting extremely excited about it, and that feeling is permeating a large segment of the population.
This is, I mean, you can... the Christian fundamentalists are going to be rapturizing about it.
There you go, yeah.
And that's one group. I mean, the New Age people will be another. This is going to go on and on. I'll tell you, fasten your seatbelts, folks, because believe it or not, and some people say that the Mayans simply ran out of room on that stone. That was it.
Well, now
they're surmising a lot of things. I mean, I don't have an answer for you. I can just tell you what I hear.
Well, of course, there's the Aztec sunstone, which is in the main area of the museum in Mexico City, from which we get the original interpretation of the 4 previous ages and then the current age and the shift that occurs on 2012. But we also have all these really curious synchronicities. For instance, there's 33 degrees in your standard Mason, if you will, hierarchy, correct? If you multiply that by the number of nautical miles per degree on this planet, 60.039, you end up with 2012.9. So the 33rd degree, 33.33 degrees, where the Masons would have you go, or 1/3 of anything expressed in a 4-digit decimal, multiplied by the number of nautical miles, yields 2012.9, which gets us into the near closing time of that particular calendar. Then we find that Pope Gregory had his particular mathematician ended at 1111 on that particular day, which is 1/3 of 3333, and it's one of their symbols and so on. So you start getting into it all. They're expecting something. And at this point, there's so many rumors and quasi-substantiated, the paper trail goes so far and then kind of like fades away a bit, but at least there are some solid evidence that there's been a lot of work put into underground buildings and this sort of deal, right? And a lot of money siphoned off in huge amounts out of the black budget.
Correct.
And they're not doing that, and it's not showing up with, giant purchases of beachfront property somewhere, this kind of thing.
No, they're going down.
Yeah, I'm sure there's graft everywhere, but a lot of that money is actually just sort of disappearing. And so, of course, it's into a large hole in the ground.
It's going underground, quite literally and figuratively.
And we see now that there's large purchases of long-store foods, and that this is a long-term trend, and it's even gotten to the point where we have starting to generate its own rumor stream about it.
Boy, this poor dumbed-down American public is going to be putty in the hands of anyone who wants to really manipulate and massage this thing. I don't...
Well, they're going to have to go through some rather difficult times. As we all know, when we come to getting into a personal level of enlightenment, opening up our eyes and saying, geez, everything I've been told about the world is wrong, I'd better start educating myself. Those are not fun years. And you run into all kinds of problems trying to do this on your own. Now, personally, I say don't let anybody be your guru, because down that road, madness lies. Because you never know about people these days.
Really good advice. Please don't
myself
follow.
Included. I don't want to be anybody's guru. We just give you a little bit of hints as to where to find, where to put your feet on the road.
Don't follow anyone, whether it's a television program, talk show host. It doesn't matter. You've got to learn. We have to learn to be our own sages and follow that inner voice. Do our research and let it percolate, and don't pick up other people's recorded messages and live them. It doesn't work.
Yeah, not very well. And as we'll all discover as we go forward, I'm sure.
Well, 2012 looks to be the greatest show on earth coming soon. Can you imagine Hollywood? How many films are on the drawing board now? How many keyboards are probably?
There's a real curious thing, though. Isn't it curious? No, this is atypical. Usually when they have this kind of an event that they can work off of, they're many years out because they want to be able to milk it. They want to have the sequel. I mean, it's a planned little procedure. We do not have enough time. That's what's so funny. They apparently have been clamped down on putting out the word about this or speculating beyond certain levels.
Really?
And the mere fact that we don't have dozens and dozens and dozens of 2012 movies out there.
Well, not yet.
Itself, and even so, you can't get that many out in the 4 years that are remaining.
Well, I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but that is true, and it's very interesting. I don't know.
There were a lot of scripts, by the way, thousands.
Oh, it had to be. I mean, there are probably keyboards clattering away right now, people writing their 2012 script. Maybe you and George and I should just do something modest like T-shirts.
There you go. I survived 2012. Yeah.
Yeah. Or did I survive 2012?
I'll find out later. Yeah. Let me have my coffee now, and we'll decide in half an hour. But let's just get through this winter. Let's get through this winter, and then we'll decide how we want to deal with things. Because we don't have very much time here, West Coast, probably insofar as Vancouver and the slip strike fault up there, going all the way down the West Coast, is probably our best site for our December 10th, 11th, or 12th earthquake. And Bob Hitt, the astrologer fellow, tells me that the 12th is like just chock full of interesting alignment of the planets astrologically, which, of course, also coincides with hyperdimensionally, which puts the strain on everything. So the 12th may be
the magnetic issue on the solar system also is certainly part of it. All right, and now the Canary Islands, the volcano. We know about that it's cracked on the western. If we looked at our western side, not on the it's fractured on the west side of the actual volcano, the crater. Not on the eastern, but it doesn't matter. That's plenty big. Now, would your research be able to determine in advance if a small group of maniacs were to hand carry a small nuke and kind of throw it in that crater and light it off?
I don't know.
That's not a natural. It would result in a quote natural occurrence. A big piece of landmass falls into the ocean, 500-foot wave, whatever.
But we look at it this way: it's not that we're tuning into the event per se. Seemingly, I mean, our best guess as to what's happening is that we're tuning into the people's brain waves, and they're reading or coming across the information about the event in the future. So it's as though we've got millions upon millions of people whose brains are slightly tuning into what they're going to be reading about the event or seeing on TV or whatever after it occurs, and we're picking up some of that language. So we're not getting the event per se, we're getting the language that appears after it. So if that were known sometime afterwards, we could probably pick it up. But if it was never known, for instance, that it was a bunch of lunatics that actually caused it, then we would have no way of knowing, nor would we know.